Hello and welcome to Strange Days Live. I am your host, Doc, transmitting live from Southern California on Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. Today's show is going to have some disturbing content in regards to abuse physically, mentally, and emotionally. So, for those of you that are sensitive, I advise you to perhaps skip this show. It's obviously all of my show are not meant to be listened for by kids. So, with that being said, we're going to introduce the topic for today. Hey guys, how are you? A little bit late today, but I wanted to watch a movie that's been kind of in the back of my mind for a while, and so I went to the theater, and that's why I'm back a little bit late. I went to watch Late Night with the Devil. It was a good movie, pretty creatively. I like when they do kind of retro movies, and this one had like a whole 1970s uh, show. Give me a second. Sorry, I had to quiet the crowds down. Anyway, so yeah, it was a good movie. I went with my girls. They liked it. I liked it as well. It was pretty cool. I guess the older you get, the less you get satisfied with the. You're not as easily impressed. But the girls liked it, so I liked that the girls liked it. I thought it was a good movie. Yeah, it was good. I would advise you to wait for the rental. I think it's going to be at the end of the month and Shutter, which is kind of like an offshoot of, or you can actually. It's one of these channels you can get through your Amazon Prime or whatever your other providers are. You can find them there. So I would just probably wait there. Anyways, like I said earlier, this show has some sensitive topics. So if you have issues with torture, emotional, and all kinds of weird things, then it may not be a show for you to listen to. Okay. Hey, William 79. Yeah, it was a good movie. I like the fact that they kind of recreated the 70s in a way, which they did a good job in that. But yeah, it was a good movie. I would definitely recommend it. All right, so the topic for today's show will be it's called Dignity Colony. That's the name of the place. It was think about it as a post World War II sanctuary for Nazi sympathizers in South America. I'm sure you've heard tales of Nazis immigrating to South America after World War II. Even Hitler himself is thought of as being of having immigrated into South America to live post life. There's some documentation, so the validity of that, and there's people that refute it. It's up to you to choose which one is which. But this kind of deals with other Nazi sympathizers and Germans that have associations with the Nazi Party that happened to immigrate. This is a valid tale. This really occurred, and it's a very disturbing subject. There's a movie on it as well. But anyway, so the story of in Spanish is called Colonia Dignidad, which actually means dignity colony. So this it's one of the stories. It's one of secrecy, manipulation, and human rights abuses. This was founded by one Paul Schaefer in 1961. The secluded compound in Chile concealed a very dark reality beneath, the idyllic facade that it presented to people. Schaefer was a former Nazi and convicted pedophile who actually ruled the colony with an iron fist, subjecting its inhabitants to a regime of fear and control. And unfortunately, over the years, numerous allegations arose of abuse, torture, and actually collaborating with an authoritarian regime emerged. As you guys may know or may not know, Chile from 73 to 1990 was under a military regime after a coup that occurred in 73. So there were some ties about the militaries actually supporting this sort of behavior. So this paints a chilling picture of life inside Colonia Dignidad, which is Dignity Colony. So this was basically a secluded settlement that was established in post-World War II in Chile by German immigrants under the leadership of a German preacher called Paul Schaefer during General Augusto Pinochet's military dictatorship in the 70s. It gained infamy for imprisoning, torturing, and murdering dissidents. This was described as a state within a state. The colony adhered to the teachings of William Braham and primarily engaged in agriculture with additional facilities, including a school, a hospital, two airstrips, a restaurant, and a power station. Mr. Schaefer was deeply religious, like other members of the colony, and they arrived in set place in 1961. He actually arrived there as a fugitive accused of pedophilia in West Germany. So he was accused of this, and in 61, he flew to South America. The organization he actually led in Chile was alternatively labeled a cult or a gathering of harmless eccentrics. That was the title that was given to this group of individuals. The colony was surrounded by barbed wire fences, watchtowers, and searchlights, sort of like a concentration camp. And the secretive Colonia was later discovered to contain hidden weapons cache. So they were prepared for anything, basically. Investigations, including those by the Chilean government, revealed a history of criminal activity, notably child abuse. Reports from Chile's National Commission for the Truth and Reconciliation indicated that some individuals abducted by Pinochet's direction of intelligence were actually held as prisoners at this Dignity colony as well. So they kind of worked tandem with Schaefer when they faced torture and extradition, where they faced torture and also some extrajudicial executions, if you will. So they had this place had it was like a concentration camp that had possibly all of the benefits of an embassy. Um, Several members of the colony's leadership, including Mr. Schaefer, were implicated in all these atrocities when things came to light. In 1991, the settlement's name was changed to Villa Bavaria, or Bavarian Villa, and is still there until this day. And control over residents loosened after Schaefer fled to Argentina in 1996 to evade child molestation charges in Chile. And nowadays, residents are free to leave, and the site is open for tourism. So it's still there up to this day. You can visit it. It's located in the Mao region of central Chile. Dignity Colony resides within the commune of Parral, which is a remote rural expanse along the north bank of the Perquiacan River, approximately 35 kilometers southeast of Parral town. Originally known as Society Benefactory and Educational Dignity, or Charitable and Educational Society Dignity, in the 1950s, the colony spanned 137 square kilometers, very large, or 53 square miles at its peak, accommodating around 300 German and Chilean residents. Founded in 1961 by again by German citizen Paul Schaefer, Dignity Colony marked the beginning of its journey within the arrival of its inaugural settlements or settlers. Mr. Schaefer, originally from Troisdorf and initially engaged in welfare work, encountered controversy in the late 40s due to allegations of child abuse. Despite the accusations, Schaefer faced no legal consequences and continued his pursuits. The turning point for Schaefer uh, lives came through his encounter with the ministry of William Braham during Braham's 1955 European tour. He served as Braham personal security. Schaefer was profoundly influenced, especially by a sermon in Karlsruhe, Germany. This transformative experience led Schaefer to imbibe Braham's teachings, which he passionately integrated into his own belief system. Establishing a community in Gronau, Schaefer influence grew, notwithstanding the recurrence of allegations regarding his demeaningful conduct. And in 61, Schaefer orchestrated the migration of hundreds of community members from Germany to Chile, a move possibly fueled by Braham's doomsday prophecies envisioning the decline of Western democracies. Schaefer's unwavering commitment to Braham's doctrine solidified connections between Colonia Dignidad and Ewell Frank, who played the pivotal role in establishing weapons factory and aiding the colony's operation in Chile once established by the German immigrants. Despite Schaefer's ultimately demise in a car accident this, in 1965, no, it's not correct here. Externally, the colony projected an image of German efficiency, cleanliness, and collective labor, with profitable agriculture endeavors in a charity hospital. They maintained the facade effectively as people thought there was just immigrants enjoying their life in a new continent. The colony operated its own media apparatus, producing videos showcasing content residents amidst various activities. You know, men toiling the field, women and girls engaged in embroidery and dairy processing, basically a fake happy life. Despite reports of violence and crimes, diplomats from the German embassy lauded it as a model colony to the outside world, turning a blind eye to the darker realities that were occurring within the colony. However, Schaefer's propaganda machinery faced challenges as escapees from the colony sought asylum in Germany, exposing its hidden horrors. And among them, Wolfgang Mueller, who fled from the colony in 1966, revealed the atrocities perpetrated within the colony. Obtaining German citizenship, Mueller transitioned into an activist, vehemently opposing the leaders of Colonia Dignidad and eventually assuming the presidency of a foundation supporting Schaefer's victims in Chile. In 67, another inhabitant, Mr. Heinz Kuhn, liberated by Schaefer, corroborated Miller's accounts and provided further details of the abuses that were happening. Yet these early allegations faced dismissal by politicians, vehemently denied due to their association with the colony's management and their involvement in the preparation for the 1973 military coup in Chile, as later evidence in Chilean legal proceedings. In the year of 1988, another witnesses the escape of George and Lottie Packmore testified before Parliament hearing in Bonn, Germany, affirming that German citizens were being subject to involuntary confinement within this enclave. Before relocating his organization to Chile in 61, Paul Schaefer petitioned the Chilean government for tax inception and asylum in exchange for aiding in gathering political intelligence. The Reding Commission, tasked with investigating human rights violations during Pinochet's dictatorship, amassed substantial evidence supporting claims of the Colonia Dignidad's involvement in detailing and torturing political prisoners. Notable sources endorsing these allegations include representatives of the Federal Republic of Germany and the Working Group on Enforced of Involuntary Disappearances. The Commission's conclusions were drawn directly from scrutinized evidence. Within these clandestine dungeons, captives endured harrowing torture methods, including attack by dogs and electrical shocks. Some survivors allege that Schaefer's direct participation in the torment was a real thing. Questions linger regarding the full extent of Schaefer's collaboration with Mr. Pinochet, suggesting undisclosed details. Schaefer's 2005 apprehension unveiled a trove of over 500 government documents of missing detainees, which were concealed in the Bodega de las Papas, or the potato cellar. Each file contained harrowing accounts of severe human rights violation perpetrated under Schaefer's supervision in collusion with Pinochet and the Chilean junta government. Allegedly, in the late 70s, Pinochet ordered the exhumation of mass graves containing hundreds of murdered detainees during the coup, disposing of their bodies by either tossing them into the sea or incinerating them. Claims of cooperation between the German intelligence service, German's arms dealer Gerhard Mertens, and Colonia Dignidad, including the establishment of bunkers, tunnels, a hospital, and a runway for modular armament production, have been suggested by journalist John Dings. This collaboration was shrouded in secrecy due to the complications arising from Argentina at the time. Given Dignity's colony's close ties with the Chilean military and its strategic location near the Argentine Chilean border, the colony functioned as a base for the Chilean military during the 1978 Beagle conflict between Chile and Argentina. Additionally, the hospital within the colony served as a laboratory for the production of weaponized sarin gas as part of the Pinochet government Project Andrea. Despite Chile transition to democracy in the 1990s, after 17 years of dictatorship, Colonia Dignidad presented without significant change. Reports of internal abuses and humiliations within the colony escalated attracting increased national and international scrutiny. However, attempts by law enforcement to investigate were met with resistance and silence from the colony's authorities, who retained significant power and enjoy support from elements within the army and the Chilean far right. This shielded them from scrutiny, with advance warnings tipping them off whenever the police prepared a visit. And over time, public perception in Chile began to shift, with growing resentment towards this particular colony. Many viewed it as an autonomous entity within Chile, sort of like an embassy or an enclave exerting undue influence. Before arriving in Chile, Schaefer faced allegations in Germany, um, and they said that he continued to quote unquote import children until the end of his leadership, resulting in a community of around 350 residents, with approximately 100 of them being children. Advocates claim that the colony was harmless, while critics depict it as a tyrannical and repressive, particularly regarding gender interaction and expression of desires with an aging population. Sorry, guys. Surrounded by barbed wire, searchlight, and a watchtower, as we spoken before, the colony's perimeter was heavily fortified. Under Schaefer's leadership, the colony remained isolated, accessibly only via a road cutting through farmland in a forest, leading to heavily guarded fence. And despite the fortress-like exterior, the colony appeared relatively ordinary, albeit somewhat outdated. The village boasted contemporary apartment complex. It had two schools, a chapel, multiple meeting houses, and a bakery, crafting delectable cakes, breads, and cheeses. It housed numerous animal stables, dual landing strips, and at least one aircraft, hydroelectric power station, and diverse mills and factories, notably a lucrative gravel mill supporting various road construction endeavors nationwide. Positioned in the northern periphery, a hospital offered cost-free medical services, benefiting not only the members of the colony but thousands in the region plagued by poverty. Schaefer, despite spending most of his adult life in Chile, spoke minimal Spanish, as only German was used within the colony. Although described as a serious and seldom smiling, he possessed charisma. He diligently portrayed Colonia Dignidad as an utopian haven, seemingly frozen in a pre-World War II German era. However, reality revealed a fear-driven colony where members were isolated and some armed for defense. Under Schaefer's rule, families were divided, relationships forbidden, and living quarters were segregated by gender. Schaefer subjected members to abuse and torture, as confirmed by Dr. Gisela Seaworld's statements. Confessions were coerced, sinners publicly shamed, and romantic relationships dictated by Schaefer himself. Family ties were based on loyalty to him, with children raised collectively. Life stages were regimented, with each member working long hours for Colonia Dignidad's sake, dressed in German style clothing from the 1930s, living in groups of six. So, a very, very structured um, camp type, concentration camp type, with a ex-Nazi minded man. The enclave housed both a school and a hospital, and it also provided free education and healthcare to rural families. So the people around town would love these guys living there. You know, they had free healthcare and they had free education, not knowing the evils that were being committed inside, potentially bolstering support in the event of an attack, right? However, recent revelations have uncovered numerous instances of illegal child adoptions from neighboring families by German leaderships, ostensibly to fulfill the commitment to free education. So they would offer free education to people that were poorer, probably pay a little bit and kidnap their kids, promising to have them be raised in a more appropriate quote unquote life. Surrounding locals perceived Colonia Dignidad as a compromising, industrious, orderly individual leading hygienic, structured life. In 1996, Mr. Schaefer evaded uh, counts for child abuse charges in Chile, managing to avoid arrest until 2005. The year before that, in his absence, a Chilean court found him guilty of child abuse alongside 26 other sect members. Subsequently, in 2006, he received a 20-year prison sentence, and Schaefer passed away in prison on April 24th, 2010, at the age of 88 years, succumbing to his heart condition. Notably, at the time of his death, investigations into the 1985 disappearance of mathematician Boris Weisfeiler, an American citizen vanishing near Colonia Dignidad, were ongoing. During Augusto Pinochet's military dictatorship, which spanned from 1973 to 1990, Colonia Dignidad operated as a designated torture center, as we spoke earlier. In 1991, Chile's National Commission for Truth and Reconciliation determined that individuals detained by Hitler's henchmen were held captive at this colony, with some residents actively participating in the torture of these captives. The colony's complicity was documented as earlier as the United Nations report appeared in October of 1976, cited in the March 1977 Amnesty International report titled "Disappeared Prisoners in Chile." The later report highlighted Colonia Dignidad's involvement, stating, "Another detention center described in the UN document in which it is alleged that experiments in torture are carried out in Dignity Colony near the town of Parral. Prisoners subjected to torture in Colonia Dignidad's underground tunnels were individually interrogated to assess their personality for determining appropriate torture techniques, resulting in enduring afflictions. As many as 100 individuals brought to Colonia Dignidad by the Chilean government were reported killed in the colony. There are over 1,100 disappeared individuals in Chile, some of whom were taken to the colony where they faced torture and execution. Among them, as I spoke earlier, is Boris Weisfeiler, a U.S. citizen and mathematician professor at Penn State. Weisfeiler was 43 at the time, and he disappeared while hiking near the Chilean-Argentina border in early January of 1985. It is believed that he was abducted and transported to the colony where he endured torture and was ultimately killed. In 2012, a Chilean judge authorized the arrest of 8 former police and army officials implicating Weisfeiler's abduction during the Pinochet era. And based on the evidence from declassified U.S. governments, this proved to be true. However, in 2016, the case was closed and the men were released as the judge ruled Weisfeiler's abduction as a common crime, exceeding the statute of limitations rather than a human rights violation, unfortunately. Some defectors from the colony have portrayed it as a cult in which the leader, Paul Schaefer, held the ultimate power. They claim that the residents were never allowed to leave the colony and that they were strictly segregated by both gender and other factors, mostly gender. Television, telephones, and calendars were banned. Residents worked wearing Bavaria peasant garb and sang German folk songs. Sex was banned, with some residents forced to take drugs to reduce their sexual desires. Drugs were also administered as a form of sedation, mostly to young girls, but to males as well. Severe discipline in the form of beatings and torture was commonplace. Mr. Schaefer insisted that discipline was spiritually enriching. One of the first instances of abuse allegations was in 1966 from escapee Wolfgang Mueller, as we talked earlier, where he had been 16 when he came to the colony in 61. He claimed that he was forced into slave labor, received regular harsh beatings, and was abused by Schaefer on multiple occasions. Mueller said that the former Nazis were also part of the colony as well. During the June and July of 2005, Chilean authorities discovered 2 significant illegal weapon stockpiles, either within or near the colony's vicinity. The initial find, located within the colony, consisted of 3 containers housing machine guns, automatic rifles, rocket launchers, and substantial quantities of ammunition. Some of the ammunition, up to 40 years old, show signs of recent maintenance. This cache was deemed the largest private arsenal ever discovered in Chile. A second cache, found outside a restaurant linked to the colony, contained rocket launchers and grenades. In January of 2005, Michael Towley, a former operative for the Chilean secret police living in the United States under witness protection, disclosed to the Interpol that Chile agents the connection between the Pinochet and Colonia Dignidad regimes. Mr. Townley also provided information regarding the colony's association with the Army's laboratory and bacteriological warfare department. He revealed that its laboratory had replaced the former Chilean Army facility at Villa Naranja in Locurro Hill, where Townley corroborated with chemist Eugenio Berrios. Additionally, Townley offered evidence of biological experiments conducted on political prisoners at Colonia Dignidad, connected to the two mentioned laboratories. The CIA and Simon Wiesenthal Center claimed that Joseph Mengele, the infamous Nazi concentration camp doctor known as the Angel of Death for his lethal experiments on human subjects, was actually present at the colony. The colony itself rejected the accusation when Wiesenthal published it in 1997 in the Chilean press. The German government states that to this date there is no evidence to support or invalidate Wiesenthal's claim or the more general allegation that the Colonia Dignidad or its legal successor was a place for refuge for Nazi criminals. The Nazi underground in South America was established sometime before World War II. Juan Perón, president of Argentina, provided shelter to some escaped Nazi criminals. Nazi sympathy in South America decreased until Pinochet took power. It was suggested that part of the intense racism, anti Semitism, and classism in Chile can be attributed to Nazi presence. The high concentration of Germans in Chile shaped the country's overall attitude toward subjects like education and military. A few of the Germans who immigrated to Chile in the 60s were former Nazis, led by Paul Schaefer. Hence, Colonia Dignidad was a Nazi stronghold protected by the Chilean government. Former members of the SS, Gestapo, had the job of demonstrating Nazi torture methods to the secret police of Chile. And up to this day, when you look at a Chilean parade, military parade, you see that their uniforms are exactly alike the uniforms used by Germany during World War II. Many of Schaefer's followers who had Nazi past joined him to escape post-World War II war crimes investigations. The presence of Colonia Dignidad had an effect on the general political opinion of the surrounding areas, and the government as well, because of this, considering the political ties between Colonia Dignidad and the Chilean government. In 2004, a Chilean court convicted Schaefer and 26 other cult members of child abuse, and in 2006, Schaefer was sentenced, as we said before, for 20 years in prison. In early 2011, Harmith Hopp, considered to be Schaefer's right-hand man at Colonia Dignidad, was placed under house arrest in Chile while awaiting trial for human rights crimes. And in May of 2011, Hopp fled Chile on board a helicopter, later making his way back to Germany. In June 2016, prosecutors in Germany petitioned a court to enforce a 5-year prison sentence that Hopp was sentenced to in absentia in Chile. And in May of 2019, German prosecutors announced that they had dropped their investigation into Hopp and Reinhard Doring. In January of 2020, a lawyer for the victims, Petra Schnauzenhauf, lodged a complaint seeking to have this investigation reopened. Hopp and other alleged accomplices in Schaefer's crimes were charged and awaiting trial, took refuge in Enwold, Frank's church in Germany, while they were being protected from extradition. Frank is the leader of William Brandt's followers in Germany. German protesters picketed in front of Frank's church to protest his actions. The government of Chile banned Ewald Frank from entering the country after finding that he had been visiting and holding revival meetings with Schaefer's following at Colonia. Schaefer's followers speculated to news reporters that Frank and Schaefer had known each other since the 1950s, when they were both at Brahm's European campaign meetings together. At the moment Hopp escaped Chile, 10 other cult members were out on bail awaiting trials of various charges. Fearing that they might also flee the country, their bail was immediately revoked and they were taken into custody. In 2010, Chilean authorities launched an investigation into the events of the colony during the 90s. And 19 months later, the Supreme Court issued a unanimous ruling to persecute 16 Chilean and German members of the colony. On the 28th of January of 2013, 6 former leaders of the colony were sentenced to prison. while the remaining 10 were found guilty of lesser crimes and given probation sentences. In May of 2017, the German Bundestag officially acknowledged Germany's responsibility in both the failure of its foreign policy regarding Colonia Dignidad. Members of all parties in the German parliament passed a resolution giving the government a year to investigate the colony's history, establish a memorial, and offer assistance to the victims and its members. Going back again in 1991, the settlement's name was changed from Colonia Dignidad to Villa Baviera, or Bavarian Villa, and residents now enjoy free ingress and egress, and some pursue higher education. As of 2019, Bavarian Villa operates as a tourist resort, sparking controversy amongst the human rights activists. During the initial transition of the colony, many former members or victims protest in front of this Bavarian villa, displaying photos of the murdered and disappeared on the fences. They liking repurposing the former torture site to installing a McDonald's in Auschwitz. In October 2005, the Chilean government dispatched a team of coordinators to facilitate the colony's integration into Chilean society. Their primary recommendation was to modernize the state to enable residents to sustain themselves within the premises. One proposal was to transform the facilities into a wellness farm with hot springs and organic yogurt production. So that's a little bit, despite its disturbing past, the legacy of Colonia Dignidad serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of vigilance in protecting human rights. While efforts have been made to bring justice to the victims and hold perpetrators accountable, the scar left by this dark chapter in history continues to linger to this day. Through awareness, education, and advocacy, we strive to ensure that such atrocities are never ever repeated and that the victims of Colonia Dignidad are never forgotten. So this was close to me because I am from Chile, and I've experienced a lot of these things firsthand in regards to what the article details, you know. And I know that when I grew up in Chile in the 1980s, it was very true that a lot of people were very pro-Nazi, and they would have you believe that the Nazi regime and the Nazi ways of life were the right way. Scary, but I I can attest that as a personal experience. I remember as a kid, people used to always think that Germany had the best of everything, and that the Nazis had, unfortunately, we thought the right mentality. It's scary because all the people that were actually teaching this, some higher educations were all ex-Nazis. There's a movie released in 2015 that actually stars Emma Watson, and it's called Colonia, or the Colony. And that one details the movie that, excuse me, the story that I just recounted. Okay, so if you guys are interested, remember Emma Watson, and the name of the movie is called The Colony, or Colonia in Spanish. I saw it many years ago, and I was very disturbed and impressed by the quality of the film. So it's a very sad tale into the human mind. There's also a TV miniseries that were released in 2021 in Netflix, and it's called A Sinister Sect, Colonia Dignidad, or Dignity Colony. So you can probably see all this stuff in Netflix. I would recommend you just to get a little bit more, how would I say it, a little bit more education into the laws of mankind, you know? So I thought it would make a good show to kind of more, not really paranormal aspect of it, but the horrors of humanity, if you will. Let me just quickly go here towards. Okay, good. So yeah, so again, thank you guys for tuning in today. So I know it's a little bit more later than usual, but I hope you guys enjoy the show. Uh, keep being fans. So go to our strangedayslive.com and subscribe to our social media and interact with our channel because that's what really helps me. Okay, this is a labor of love that I have. I don't get any money from it whatsoever. I just do it because I enjoy podcasting, broadcasting, and I enjoy um, tales with strange twists and turns. So God bless you guys. Be good to one another and have a wonderful night. And thank you there, William Soriano. I appreciate you. Thank you guys. This is Doc signing off. Bye bye.